A Kidnapped Santa Claus, our first story on this channel by the infamous L. Frank Baum, and I loved it.
It hits you in the feels. It is a very traditional, Americanized Christmas story. Makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Has that, I guess, goodness to it all around, and you learn a lesson while going on this great adventure with Santa Claus.
It wasn't depressing. I don't know where you're going to go with the chat today, but I have a really strong conviction on this one. I did look up that apparently that he had 2 years earlier written a whole book, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, something like that. And I would 100% be interested in diving back into this universe because I enjoyed this one so much. But we're, for the audience out there, we're reading this as a standalone. We have no knowledge of that book when we discuss this.
I think that's fair because he wrote this after that book, so there might be some inspiration. We don't know. But I would love to revisit this kingdom, this realm, this world, because it is very well written. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of play, and I think that the religious overtones are appropriate because there is so much religion steeped in Christmas and the holidays.
And I think you can probably actually draw a parallel to almost to many religions. Obviously, I'm going to focus on the Christian one just because, Santa Claus and all, Christmas, But let's put it this way. The story starts out, I was really engaged with, the Laughing Valley. We get a picture of like utopia, almost kind of like Edenic, with a promise of change. We just recently read The Devil in the Belfry by Edgar Allan Poe. And that was a story where it was very much revolving around this unit of change, of chaos, sin, like that sort of thing is introduced into the world, and it just throws the town into chaos, right? We have the demon caves nearby, thinly veiled after what, like envy, malice, hatred, stuff like that. Like there's no attempt to hide that, to me, that this is a very Christian tale, at least in intent, though you could read it in many different ways. And I'm curious, did you have a particular story from the Bible that you might have drawn from when you were reading this?
I didn't, but I kept thinking of why are not the 7 deadly sins? I guess maybe he didn't want to make it too obvious.
Okay.
But it definitely feels more Old Testament than New Testament.
Oh, dude, Old Testament, he would have raised these caves up at the end, man. Like they...
He might. I don't know. You don't know what Santa's going to do.
Santa didn't feel very eye for an eye for me with this one, but he did represent, I felt, like a Christ-like figure in terms of compassion, generosity, kindness, and also, I would say, humility. The way that he didn't want to destroy other people's businesses. He just does it this one day a year, right? But he gets to make children happy this one day a year, and the demons come and tempt him. For me, the story that I drew a instant parallel to was the temptations of Christ, right? Like, turn these stones into bread, then you can eat, like this lust of the world. And, if you fall, the angels will stop you, right? Well, then you're tempting your power and manipulating things. Ultimately, would you bow down before me, trading in eternal bliss for earthly pleasure, if you will? You saw the way the demons are like, whoa, don't you want these kids to worship you? And he's like, no, I just want them to be happy. And aren't you jealous other people make money all the time? You only get it one day. No, this is very much the temptation of Santa Claus in this story for me.
And he is good at every turn. Every time he has the advice or he has the rebuttal of just pure goodness. And that parallel with the Christ-like figure, God, goodness, purity is very apparent there. And I even love the fact that there's one point in the story towards the end when through the story, Santa Claus gets kidnapped, but there are other helpers inside of the sleigh. And so they just go finish the night off for him and deliver all the toys. And they make a few mistakes along the way. the kids that get the wrong toys are kind of mad, they're disappointed. He goes back and gives them the right toys. Like, that's how good he is in this.
Mm-hmm.
And that even if somebody is complaining, you just want to continue being good to him, to them is what he does. And that is just that just it warms your heart. It's really cool.
Well, it's that lesson in greed, right? I don't think we view kids as being greedy, but we do know that they have a highest level of satisfaction when it comes to toys on Christmas, right? And the way that these helpers, I think, just rather than immediately got to save Santa Claus, they're like, we got to save the children, right? Again, a very religious overtone, not just Christian, but many religions, right? Like, you prioritize children, make sure that they're loved and cherished, right? And you can almost view it kind of like how in any religion, you want to do your best, right? But it's almost like it feels sometimes like the rules are stacked against you. Like, man, if I could just live this perfect life, but like nobody can live a perfect life. Like so few people reach nirvana or whatever in the afterlife. Like the lust, the temptations that we face, we don't pass them as easily as Santa or Jesus did, right? And I think that's what's interesting about these helpers is they're not perfect, right? They're gonna fail, like many do at religion, but they do their best, right? And that's an important part, I think, is that effort into the story.
And passing on the goodness, passing on the happiness, passing on the joy. That's what they do. Is he taught them the lesson, and then they go out and they live the lesson instead of, fretting. And I mean, they're upset and everything, but they go do the good deed first and then worry about him. And you put that happiness out in the world, and I think it's going to perpetuate itself to the next person and the next person. And for me, that's a lot of times what the holidays is, you give to those less fortunate. You give to the foundations that need the toys. You give to soup kitchens, and you go volunteer, and you put that goodness out in the world just for the sake of doing that with no expectation of anything in return. And I think that Santa Claus in this story, and in most stories, we hope that he embodies that, and that goodness will be passed on to our children, and that they can pass it on to the next generation.
Do you think, in terms of passing on that goodness, one, it's like there must be failure first, you know what I mean? And if we look at the demon caves, like you had to go through hatred, you had to go through malice, and at the end was redemption, right? So it's like you couldn't find redemption until you failed first on some level. What are your thoughts on this whole redemption and him kind of like setting Santa free and being something where you have to go through evil to really understand what it means to be redeemed?
I was a little confused at first of why redemption would be there as a part of them. I mean, he should be there, obviously, because you go through these negative things and there's hope for you to turn things around in your life. And redemption, he sees that he's good and bad, right? He goes, well, you have to be bad in order to be redeemed, but are you stronger for it on the other end? I guess that's the thing of if you never make a mistake, if you never did anything wrong, that's okay, right? That's good. I mean, why would we complain about that? But are you even more joyous? Are you better? Are you nicer, kinder after you've done something wrong, been redeemed, and realized what your mistake was? It's growth. That's what it is. And I think that's, again, comes back to that idea of hope, that you want that for the possibility because you know that we're all fallible and we're all going to make a mistake, but we still all have that redemption in us.
I never put much thought into it, but you said something really interesting there. You said something about like, well, he is perfect, so, you aren't jealous of him. You said something to that effect. I don't remember the exact words, but if we take this as an analog for Jesus, right? Like, isn't that what happened was that he was a morally perfect individual in these biographies and the stories of Jesus, right? And people were jealous of him, right? Like they literally crucified him and tried to get him to repent and to fail, to show that he also could fail in the flesh the way that all mankind does. And he still resisted that, right? Like that strength, that bravery, and the humility to accept and not put on something that you're not, right? So few people have that power that if it weren't for redemption, it's almost like, why wouldn't we give up? Like if we didn't think we could be better, why do we deserve redeeming ourselves or trying to be better if we're just going to always fail and always have like a negative thing? That redemption, I think, is that beacon of hope. Like we need that in order to, in my opinion, try to be better people than what we were today or yesterday.
And that's a hard lesson for many people to learn. I think that's why you and I are so passionate about having conversations. I think that's why you and I like to read so much. I think that's why you and I love Christmas and the holidays, is because it is a time of year that everybody can embrace that. It is a rebirth of who you are, of learning to be anew, that there is hopefully nobody that's ever past the point of redemption.
Now, it's been a while since we've brought up our favorite storyline of all time, Star Wars, right? The biggest mistake the Jedi make was thinking they could destroy the Sith, right? That you could have absolute power, that you could only have one side to the coin. I think we see in life and in the story, that's never the case. There's always going to be that balance, and wherever there's goodness, there's always going to be evil. Good versus evil is kind of the point of the story, right? Hence the whole Santa and the caves here. At the end, Santa says something akin to, they can't be destroyed, right? And isn't that a bit of wisdom to realize you'll never defeat the temptations, the malice, the hatred that lives, to your point, within all of us? We have to learn to live with it, and we have to learn to defeat it and not let it defeat us, because even if it does defeat us, we can still be redeemed. And I think that is, for what is ultimately just like I don't want to call it like a childish story, but it's approachable, it's very open, it can be deep if you want, and you can just have fun reading it as well. It's really amazing to see how Baum was able to take this story and really he wove like a very deep tapestry where you can just really draw on these threads that I find fascinating, at least.
It does feel very whimsical. It, in my mind, played out the whole time like I don't remember what decade it was, like from the 50s or 60s or something like that. The claymation, remember Rudolph and all of those claymation cartoon type things? That's how I envision.
I'm cute.
Exactly. That's how I envisioned the story when I was kind of playing the mental movie in my head. That's what I imagined it kind of happening. But it is very deep. And it's funny that you mentioned like Star Wars, because one of the biggest pieces of Star Wars is redemption through love. And I think that Santa also kind of embodies love, the Christ-like figure of love thy neighbor. That's what it comes down to, is loving each other and treating each other how you want to be treated. And when you're waking up on Christmas morning or whatever holiday you celebrate during the holiday season, you want to be surrounded by people you love and your family, and you have food and you break bread. And it's all of those love feelings that really kind of bring us together, that in that arc of redemption allow us to be better than we think possible for ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just like a lot of depth to this story, and a lot of the Christmas stories we've read, man, like I want to say like they're depressing, but at the same time, I mean, children were kind of like tortured in this one too. There's something about
only a little bit.
There's always got to be that little like, hey, children, you got to be better and be quote unquote good. Otherwise, like there's always got to be that in a Christmas story. But this one felt more wholesome, I guess, than most. So I would put this at the top of my list of Christmas stories that we've read for the channel, to be honest.
It was just fun. And not that I don't enjoy learning about other cultures, not that I don't enjoy reading all of those stories. Sometimes it's a little rough when you're just looking for that pick-me-up to have something that is so depressing and dour. It's like, no, this is Christmas. Everybody's supposed to be happy at the end. Everybody gets their wings. Everybody gets a present. Santa saves the day. The bad guy loses. That's what I need in my Christmas. Everybody gets the present that was at the top of their list.
You're going to shoot your eye out, kid. Come on.
Oh, hey, Ralphie loved that gun.
All right, guys, let us know what other Christmas stories are at the top of your list. We're always looking for the ones that are upbeat and fun. And should we read that book? I really feel like we should next year. But we also have the to finish up the Charles Dickens Christmas stories. We only have one more to go.
We'll get to them. All
right, guys, thanks for spending time with us today. We'll leave a playlist down below. My name's been Una. Peace.
Merry Christmas.